2007 was an overall great year for horror movies. I have seen a lot of movies in my lifetime, and I have to say that still, 2007 had one of the scariest movies of all time. Last year, 2022, the movies that came out, they were pretty good. Some of them were very scary, but some of them they really weren't. Some of them were very gory. Some of them were okay. But yeah, 2007, that was the year that I was a kid and I was 10 years old. Maybe I might have seen some of them on that year, but most of them probably I might have seen them when I was like 12, 2 years later probably or so. Yeah, because I didn't went to movie theaters and watch horror movies. I was a little kid. The movies I'm going to speak to you about, I would recommend them to you. Maybe you have seen these movies before, or maybe you haven't. But if you haven't, then you're in for a treat. And also I would tell you why these movies are so good. I'm not going to give you all of them, but I will give you some of my favorite ones from this year. This year, again, it was just so great. And I would like to share with you my favorites. Starting out with Dead Silence. I believe this is the scariest one in the list. Yeah, I just started off just like that. Dead Silence was probably the movie that actually got my fear out. Probably when I was like around 6 or 7 years old, I watched Child's Play on TV, and it was in Spanish. So I watched this movie and I got to say, I really was afraid of it. But I did kind of forgot about it over the years until I just saw the trailers for Dead Silence. Damn, I really hated puppets back then. They look very scary, and even the main one, the one that came out on the movie, Billy, he looks creepy, doesn't he? And also I had to say, because since I saw Goosebumps, there was this other puppet named Slappy. Yeah, Slappy. I remember him too. That was a very scary episode. I think they actually made 2 more episodes with him. But yeah, when I was younger, I avoided watching these. It was like in the middle of October, and this episode of Slappy was just playing, man. He looked creepy. Going back to Dead Silence, just the movie overall, like if you scream, the demon that's controlling the dummy gets you. Just the puppet, man, it just looks pretty scary. Now let's move on to 30 Days of Night. I have actually made a video for this movie. Like I talked about it very in depth. Say if you're stuck in a snowstorm and there was no sunlight for 30 days. You're in the middle of the winter and there's no sun. This is a good movie idea for a vampire movie. And this movie is bloody. It's a one-of-a-kind film, and I still have to say it's one of the best vampire movies of all time. Pretty gory as well. The next one on the list is 28 Weeks Later. That's one of the best zombie movies I've ever seen. Ever. The zombies, they go rogue. They don't stop to rest at all. They just go after you, and they just come at you with everything they got. That opening scene is just so memorable. I have no clue how the guy never got tired of running from the zombies. Maybe it's just the adrenaline, man. Those are one of the scariest zombies I've seen, the running ones. This is probably the only zombies that you probably might not survive. Even me as well. Like, say if you're in the universe of The Walking Dead, you can actually outrun the zombies. But the ones for 28 Weeks Later, you need to become the Quicksilver or somebody that has superpowers like Dash or something like that to run away from these. Now let's talk about REC. Yeah, you probably might be thinking, why are you calling it REC? But that's how I used to call it back then, until I learned they called the movie Wreck. This movie was probably one of the first movies I saw growing up that had to do with found footage. It was actually a Spanish movie, and I have to say it's a pretty good one. It's a good movie that tells of a good plot. It's also another zombie movie that takes place in a building There's this reporter that actually went with firefighters to go investigate a place, and like this horrible place, it just got quarantined, and there was just no way for them to get out because now they were stuck in this building with the flesh-eating zombies. It's a very good movie and still one of the best ones of 2007. Speaking of the best movies of 2007, I have to tell you about Paranormal Activity. Now, this is the one. This is the one where we actually got to see somebody being dragged by somebody that wasn't there for the very first time. Well, like for me, yeah. I think it was probably. This was one of the first found footages that I saw as well, right next to Wreck. Paranormal Activity was a one-of-a-kind film, and this was the film that actually introduced me to ghosts and demons and stuff like that. I still had to say the second one is the best one in the franchise. Paranormal Activity, when I saw it, I think probably I was around 11 or 12, because I wasn't able to see it in movie theaters. There was just no way, since, you know, your boy was 10 years old. This movie was overall great. I did not see the ending coming at all. What I saw on the trailers was people actually reacting to it in the movie theaters. That's cool that they actually did show live reactions of people actually getting scared of this movie. Yeah, it was a pretty good movie overall. And those are just only a few that I wanted to mention to you, because these are my favorite ones from that year. There's a lot more I can tell you, but we're gonna be here all day, man. I'll actually leave you the list of horror movies that I would recommend for 2007. The rest of the movies I recommend is going to be on the pinned comment below. This was the year of horror movies, and to this day I still believe that was the best year for horror movies. Do you agree, or maybe you disagree with me? I do recommend you to watch these movies I just recommended to you. Like and subscribe. Also follow me on my social medias. If you guys are into horror, then you're definitely gonna like this channel. So hit the subscribe button right now. As always, take care and live to the fullest.